start coming and they don't stop coming. Fed to the rules and I hit the ground running. Didn't make sense not to live for fun. Your brain gets smart but your head gets dumb. So much to do, so...
Hey guys, and welcome to the Omniverse of Nick, where we are getting into part 12 of What If Daryl Died Instead of Merle. Before we get into the video, real quick, smash that like button and smash the subscribe button so you can help this channel grow and we can welcome new people and old into the field of the Omniverse of Nick and make it, hopefully in the future, the best what if and overall general YouTube channel of all time. And with that, let's get into today's episode where we are getting into Dawn's people seeing the sanctuary and what's going to happen going forward. Let's dive in. So, Dawn and her hospital group, after getting to Washington and Eugene and all that, see in the distance, not too far, the sanctuary. And Dawn and their people, from what they can make out of it, it seems abandoned on a side. But in this world, what they've already been through and whatnot, they're taking a wild guess and assuming it's not abandoned, but they're still going to play it safe if they really are going to go down there. But before they can even think to do that, they are promptly surrounded by saviors in all directions, and Simon being the holder of it all, saying that they were right in assuming that place isn't abandoned because it belongs to them. And they made a big mistake trying to maybe impede on the sanctuary for whatever they were going for. Now, they can surrender themselves and their weapons immediately. But Dawn says it wasn't their intent on going there even if it wasn't abandoned to hurt anyone. If anything, they would want them to be part of their group. They're just looking for supplies and on their own. They don't have too much to give. And they're not looking for any trouble. Now, as much as Simon would think that this is just bullcrap, it's not like Rick, who openly wanted to threaten them and kill them. So Simon, from Dawn's perspective and looking at all of them, this little group of cops, he sees that it's actually legit. And I know in a few stories I've made Simon seem way more legitimate than you might think I give him credit for, but you gotta think about how the scenario presents itself. And he says, all right, but they're still going to the sanctuary to talk it out with Negan, and he might not be so nice. And O'Donnell says that no one is going anywhere. And promptly, the second after he says this, before Simon can even smartly remark at him or shoot him or hit him, O'Donnell gets out a gun and starts lighting up the place something fierce, shooting left, up, down, right, sideways, every twist and turn, diagonal, not caring who he hits. All the cops have to duck down, while all the saviors, except Simon and another few, are promptly eviscerated. Amanda, seeing this as way too dangerous of a situation, sees only one option: turn tail and run. There are way too many enemies here, and she doesn't think that even Dawn and them can get through this, and O'Donnell just literally almost blew their heads off. So she books it without anybody realizing, which I'll get to at the end of the episode. Simon, once O'Donnell's bullets have ran out and Simon and the few saviors who are left alive take control, he's like, no, they're not playing any games now. Whatever leverage they might have had to get out of this scot-free, that's gone now. They get to the sanctuary and are promptly introduced to Negan. And here's something really, really interesting for you guys. I have never included Negan and Dawn being in the same story before, ever. I came really close in my Governor Met Negan remake, but Negan was already dead when Dawn and Gareth arrived. So, it's very different here. Sort of. Anyways, we probably get the two of them introduced, which would be a pretty lit, interaction, I'd have to say. And Dawn tries to justify that her and her cops were looking for supplies and trying to get by with their group. They weren't looking for trouble until O'Donnell shot and everything just escalated. But Negan, he says that it doesn't matter, and he can see that Dawn is a woman of authority. He can sense this about Dawn, and looking at O'Donnell and Dawn and all of those cops brings him to a conclusion that they're trying to almost gain superiority over him to try and, leave, to make themselves known. And Negan was about that, not Dawn. And he says, it doesn't matter who they are, what they've done. Cops don't rule the world anymore. He doesn't care. And Dawn, she keeps trying to preach to him that they don't have to kill anyone, and they didn't want to kill anyone. They're the ones who came at them, and they just want to go. But Negan, once again, states that she has no room, none of them do, to try and boss him. Cops aren't in charge anymore. They don't own him, they don't own his men, and they for sure don't own the world. So, because of that, and because of what's happened, now they're gonna pay for it. And we get a lineup scene. Negan's bat falls onto O'Donnell. And yeah, we're getting a very early lineup scene with just Dawn and her hospital people. And this is gonna be the only lineup scene. Spoiler alert. Negan says that he's choosing O'Donnell because he's the one who openly shot and killed a good portion of his men. And the fact that he looked the most tough out of all the cops here. And it's to show Dawn and all these cops that they don't own him or the world, and he is the one who is to truly show superiority. And after that, he promptly bashes O'Donnell's bloody brains out with Lucille. And yeah. Big kill here? Not really. More or less kind of a small-ish kill with the character of O'Donnell and everything. I mean, we all know how he was. So, yeah. Negan now says that this should have demonstrated to Dawn and them by this point that they ain't on the top here. They don't get to order him or try to get to leave scot-free or do any of that. He's the one in charge. And now, they're going to see that firsthand, because the punishment with O'Donnell, that was the start. Dawn raises her gun. Their weapons were still not taken because Simon was going to give them a chance. But Dawn raises her gun and says, he isn't going to get away with this. But Negan openly berates and yells at all of the cops, specifically Dawn at this point. And yeah, the Saviors are definitely going to take their guns now, because clearly Dawn and them haven't learned. Dawn mainly, because, pride. But Negan says, they don't have anything. Their strongest cop was just diced with a barbed wire bat. They have men surrounding them with armed weapons straight at their faces, and they have nothing and no one else to fight with. Little does he know about Washington. But now, like he said, they don't own him, the Sanctuary, or any of his men. They're gonna work for him now, here at the Sanctuary, and they're truly gonna learn who is on top. And Dawn, she and her cops can't really do anything here. As I said, Amanda leaving, she was the most, determined and courageous after Dawn's death in the original. And O'Donnell seemingly was the strongest. So, Dawn and them can't really do anything here. And Negan, now we're gonna get to see him fully getting into his savior aspect and the communities and everything. Because remember, this is still mid-season 4 territory, kind of getting into season 5, yet not really. So, we're just going to be seeing Negan getting into the folds of the communities and everything. And this isn't the first time that I've done backstories and communities with Negan. I've done it in my Governor remake story and my Sophia story. So we get the Oceanside and Simon twist and the kids and everything. Simon and Gregory's, unfortunate little agreement. And then Negan and the Croat, which I'm going to talk about here. Because, like my Governor remake story, the Croat is actually going to stay. Why? What's the purpose? Here's the thing. The whole thing with him killing the kingdom's girl, that little girl or whatever, the kid, Negan would still be shocked by that and want to take the Crawd out and everything, like when he shot his ear and everything. But it's not the governor being around, obviously, that stops him from doing this. It's the fact Dawn and the cops that are at his disposal could have tricks or more, stronger assets at their side that he doesn't know about. So, the Croat is being kept around specifically to monitor, torture, and get information slowly but surely out of Dawn and her cops. So, it's more out of just making sure that they're truly not a threat, even though their strongest cop, to their knowledge, is dead. And Dawn and the cops, unfortunately, have to go along with this. But by this point, before they even got to the sanctuary, all of them, especially of Dawn, have noticed one of them is missing. And it's not O'Donnell. Amanda is missing. And soon enough, Negan and the Saviors find out about this because they all recall another cop with them. So Negan sends Regina and Ted and all those Saviors from Season 9 after Amanda, following her tracks. Because, like I said, she booked it on one of the Saviors' bikes while O'Donnell was going crazy and just floored it. So, now Regina and all her Saviors men that we saw in Season 9 are tracking Amanda. And little does Amanda know about this, or about O'Donnell, or about Dawn and the Saviors and all that, but she can get it in her head about what's happening. She looked. She just didn't care enough to pay attention. She wanted to get out of there. And little does she know that they're tracking her all the way back to the Washington building. What will happen when the Saviors eventually find her trail? And if they find her before a plan can be made, will this be the end for Abraham, Amanda, and everyone else there? Or will they actually be able to combat them and save Dawn and the other survivors? Find out in the next episode. You guys didn't think this was the end of the video, did you? Well, the Omniverse of Nick has a new feature. A sneak peek at what's next to arrive.